All right, we are live for a Wednesday edition of the Hangout, and I'm excited to be connected with my fellow co-hosts here. We have Tom in the middle from the Coming Conflict, as well as Andre to the far right from the Broke Capitalist. And so the goal is just to get when like-minded people have a little fun, laugh a little bit, and of course try to dive through and unpack some of the noise out here in the mainstream media. So looking forward to doing that. But before I move forward, gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Doing great. Survived Thanksgiving. on to the next.
Barely.
That is good, man. Hopefully, I'm glad Thanksgiving went well for everybody, and hopefully, you guys are finished eating off the leftovers or whatnot. I finished on Sunday.
Gave them away.
You gave them away, really?
Most of them. I got one lunch out of it.
I got a turkey stew somehow I came up with, but that's gonna last probably to Christmas because it's not that good.
Really?
I feel good about throwing it out. So.
Oh man. Well, okay, man. As always, for those who are tuning in, this is just a chance to just talk and have just a little back and forth, man. So looking forward to connecting. So feel free to chime in however you guys want to via the chat, and we'll definitely try to share your thoughts as well as touch on ours as well. But a couple subjects we wanted to touch on today happens to be Elon Musk and what I consider to be possible threat to free speech. And I think Tom also thinks the same thing, but I think Dre has more of a different spin. So we're going to touch that as well as the mainstream lies, as well as the whole Kanye West, Tim Cass situation, dealing with those issues there. So should be a good one, man. So before we move forward, let me see here. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button. Show some love for the channel. Makes it easier for us. And then also for these gentlemen here, their channel's information is in the description. So, but I figure we'll start off by talking about Elon Musk. I think based upon all the news and things that's coming out, it's becoming more of a distraction. And I consider him to be more toxic for free speech. But then again, I could be wrong, but we'll have a little fun with that today. But what do you guys think, man? Is Elon overall, what he's doing is good, or is it going to be problematic for content creators especially?
Can I take this one first, Andre, since you have a differing opinion? Okay, so this is my thing. Personally, I feel like Twitter is better, at least currently, than it was.
Mhm.
Okay, that's all good. But at the same time, I feel like, okay, someone like Elon Musk, as rich and powerful as he is, the government, especially considering everything he does is tied to government contracts, there's no way the federal government of the United States, Europe, anywhere else, no government is going to let him come into Twitter and start airing dirty laundry. Like, Mike, you brought up that article. Oh, we're going to drop the receipts on Twitter interfering in elections.
Yeah.
I think this is what they call a limited hangout. It's like a CIA term that I've heard. And it was the same with the DHS leak story from way back. Basically, it's a way for intelligence agencies or bad actors to say, oh, we found the problem, and give a limited piece of the story that is sensational when the news takes it, while at the same time it covers them from the larger bad acts. And I think that's what's happening with this.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a limited hangout type scenario. And I think in the end, Elon is purposely inviting problems to himself in order to get a bunch of supporters, have a whole army of people behind Elon, free speech, free speech, free speech. Then when the government cracks down, it's going to be that Hegelian dialectic, and it's going to be Elon saying, well, I went to the negotiating table. This is what they offered. This is what I offered. This was the middle, and everybody's going to clap. Oh my God, Elon, I'm so happy. Elon, let me buy a Tesla and a Tesla phone and an iRobot and all this, and please take me to Mars. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. All the while, all of our freedoms are going to be greatly diminished online.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. So here's just another article here. Musk is biting the hand that feeds Twitter, talking about all the possible revenue ad revenue that he's losing. And of course, going to beef with Tim Cook now. And I think this is a great distraction and diversion tactic, man. But Dre, let me get your thoughts, man, because you think a little bit different. So feel free to chime in on that one.
Yeah, I agree with Tom's initial assessment that Twitter is much better today than it was 3 months ago. Just there is evidence that he's opening up the floodgates, but he claims he's a free speech absolutist, but he's not, because someone isn't on there named what's his name? Yeah,
Cool.
there you go. He personally said, he picked him out and said he's not going to be on there for personal reasons, right? So I think things have to be ironed out a bit, but looking long term, and I mentioned this last time, there that lawsuit with Dr. Shiva says a lot, that Elon bought this platform knowing that lawsuit was out there, and that lawsuit alleges that the U.S. government interfered directly with everyone's free speech if you're on Twitter, basically. So the fact that he bought that knowing that, and what he said subsequent to that, meaning having Twitter become an application somewhat like WeChat, which he mentioned well before he bought the app, right? I don't see how he pulls this off without long-term support from people on the quote-unquote right, people who are looking for free speech, the ability to say whatever they want to say within the law. Now, if he pulls the okie doke, as we say, and goes like, well, I tried, then there's other alternatives out there that people will go to, like Rumble, True Social or whatever. If it gets, because I think that'll be a pendulum swung too far. It's like, you give somebody something, give them hope, right? Everybody who left Twitter or ignored Twitter and then came back to Twitter once Elon bought it, hoping that it would be a platform where people would be able to express themselves freely. And then 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you get the okie doke. Nope, we can't do that. You can't say this. You can't say that. Well, as long as there's other alternatives out there, I think those same people will leave. That's just me.
Yeah, I think this whole Elon Musk situation is open up Pandora's box, because now we have a buku billionaire that's coming in with nothing to lose. He has absolutely nothing to lose. As I mentioned before, like, sure, he pissed off 44 billion. As long as he got 1 billion left, that still puts him in the top echelon of society, to where, I literally think he's an operative that's utilizing this current time frame of all, we got the crypto distractions, we got Ukraine, China, we got all these distractions. I think this would be another way to basically have the government come in and crack down on the tech companies in general and claim the whole atmosphere utilizing that technology of allowing people to speak freely is a threat. Just because there's no censorship, so the government has to step in now and then try to monitor how, what, where, when. And then again, there'll be no agreement there, just because it'll be a left-right, House versus Senate type of tug of war forever. But then down the line, I can see them saying something about, how about we let the algorithms do it? We'll have some neutral algorithm AI that comes in that can decipher between truth and a lie and fact checked in real time. And so I think a lot of this is a setup, and that's why I'm very skeptical, man. And of course, time will tell. But what do you guys think?
I think you both hit on the correct thing. When Andre said Elon Musk openly said this is going to be America's WeChat, that's something I didn't think about, because he did say that. And what is WeChat? It is China's digital ID, global tracking system. It is the mark of the beast, for lack of a better term, for China. And then what you just said, Mike, with it's going to invite Congress in. Okay, so the Republicans have been crying for big tech legislation, but the Democrats haven't been on board. Now they hate Elon. What a better time to repeal Section 230. And if 230 is repealed, everybody thinks, oh, that's a good thing. No, it's not a good thing, because 230 is the only thing that allows people to speak freely without the platforms being at risk. They repeal 230. It gives free reign for these platforms to do whatever they want, because now they don't have the protection. If you or I or somebody else puts something illegal on the platform, now they have the right and obligation to censor. So I think what you two both said in combination is probably more likely the outcome, in my opinion.
I'm sorry. You have to consider what is the outcome Elon is looking for, the government is looking for. The government, like the Democrats, don't want me, you, or Mike talking. They just don't, because we're opposed to them, right? But there's this thing called the First Amendment that's in their way. So if you do repeal Section 230, that would make all these guys a publisher. So if that's the case, then yeah, automatically they can say, well, Andre, no, we don't want you saying that, because that means we're publishing your content and we can be sued. So the best thing to do would be to reform 230 so that they can't be sued for whatever Andre says. And I think right now that's what the Republicans want, but the Democrats don't. And luckily we have a House that's full. The Republicans have the House. So I'm not as worried about that for the next 2 years. But I was horrified of this during the midterm. That was the biggest thing for me, because if the Democrats got the House, there's no way they wouldn't come in and crack down on 230 to the point where they, you couldn't say whatever you wanted to say would have to be filtered through some government agency, whether you are aware of that government agency or not, but it would have been. And the likelihood of us being able to sue for that or even figure it out would be a lot less than it is today with the Republicans holding the House.
Yeah. And so just I was typing in the repeal 230, and of course it goes back to Trump during his presidency as a result of, I guess, him being banned. Because did it come before he got banned, or was it around the same time he got banned? Because that's when the whole, censorship on the internet and him speaking too freely became a problem for, the establishment. But was it before or after? Do you guys remember?
Did you know directly, Andre? Because I just have an idea.
Well, I know I couldn't give you the dates, but I know I was hearing about the repeal or repeal or adjustment to 230 before he got banned.
Yeah, me too. I think it was at the time the whole net neutrality argument came up. Yeah. And the guy that was in charge of the FCC, and they eventually did repeal it, and what they said would come to pass and didn't, but I guess it's still possible that internet providers right now can shut you down for things they don't like. I'm not sure. I really don't understand why net neutrality was good or bad, but that's when I remember hearing about it, and I think that was like 2018.
Yeah, and I was listening to Tim Pool. I'll probably mention him a lot, but he was saying that Google reached out to him. I guess they're reaching out to a lot of the big podcasters, trying to get them on board with siding with Google on this issue. And Tim Pool is like, no way. Like, I can't even talk on my own show, because you just never know when they're going to demonetize somebody for what they said. So in my opinion, I don't want to go over this fly over the topic, but the government is always trying to take away your responsibility. And this is another way of them doing that by saying, well, we have to protect your ears from whatever Andre says or Tom says. And the way we can do that is having legislation that, that makes, C-30 or whatever, more restrictive. But Andre, Tom, and Mike are like, no, I think people are responsible enough to know, I haven't listened to Andre for 5 minutes. Oh, he sounds nuts. I ain't listening to him no more, right? Or he sounds like he's talking, like he got some sense. I'll listen to him. Yeah. There's no way the government should be interfering with what is being said and what's being heard, unless it's illegal speech, unless I'm inciting violence or something like that. I mean, hey, leave us alone.
But that comes down to a person's right to be able to fail. And I think at the root of everything, that's the problem. People aren't allowed to be failures anymore. If you can't.
It's the government, man. The government has gotten to the point where they want to be the beginning and the end for everybody, just because we are, I guess, to them, they're servants, they're slaves. I mean, so that's how the system is set up. And anything that would lead people to wake up and realize that we're all in this damn matrix that they formed around us, and having us question them, that's a no-no. So we'll switch to the next topic. But I do think that Elon craziness is definitely going to come back to shoot us all, and it's going to bite us in the butt, man. Just because at the end of the day, it's going to shine more light on our inability, or what they would like to have is our inability to speak freely. It's going to be questioned even more because censorship is already rampant right now. So I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. That's just my opinion. So
I'm hoping for the best, man.
Yeah, me too.
I say I'm hoping for the best because I went through, man, I know like shadow banning is a thing. He still hasn't addressed that directly. But it's throughout all social media. I mean, if you're selling books on Amazon, dude, they throttling down non-woke content and throttling up content that is woke. So I think I'm hopeful that this is a crack in the wall. But like you say, it could just be,
head fake,
setting us up for the okie doke, man. I don't know. But right now they got me thinking like, okay, this may be something good, but time will tell for sure. Time will tell.
Yeah, very true. All right, so let's let's move forward a little bit. Let's talk about Kanye and Timcast and collectivist versus individualist. And so, Dre, this is something you've talked about. So, kick this off for us, and where you want to take this.
Yeah, so I don't know. The listeners are I'm assuming they're aware that Kanye, Ye, went on the Timcast, and I think why this was a big deal for me was that I know from watching Timcast for years now that he's not going to sit up there and let Kanye just act the fool, say whatever he wants to say. So I know he's going to challenge him. But knowing Kanye, I'm like, is Kanye going to sit there and be challenged? So this was almost like a wrestling event, like a pay-per-view fight. I was like, yeah, bring it on. I want to see this. And so Kanye shows up with Milo and Nick Fuentes, who I'd never heard of until the other day. And just so happened that Milo was on Timcast like a week before, I think a week or 10 days before. And no one heard from him forever. So I'm sitting here talking to him. And again, he's a bright guy, funny, very articulate, and has some, unpopular views on certain subjects, whatever. So just to recap what happened, according to Tim, he's in the green room. They were saying what the show was going to be about. Everyone knew that Kanye had these anti-Semitic views that he's spoken. He's been on several podcasts spewing this stuff.
Right.
So Tim wanted to find out about the meeting with Trump. So that's basically his goal. Like, when did the meeting, why did it happen? How did it come about? What did you guys talk about? So as soon as the camera started rolling or going live, Kanye jumped in and started talking about anti-Semitism. And Tim was kind of surprised. You could see it. Like, oh, we're going there now? Like, we're going right off? Okay, let's go. So basically, Kanye was making a lot of assumptions that, like, yeah, to paraphrase, the Jews do this, the Jews do that. And Tim Pool was like, no, hold on. I'm not going to just let you disparage a whole group of people, blah, blah, blah. And we pushed back on that. And when he did, basically, Nick Fuentes kind of jumped in and piggybacked on what Kanye was saying, and then Kanye left. But what I got out of this was Kanye left. The disagreement came on the use of the term they, right? So Kanye used they to address all Jewish people. In the term, like he was like, they run Hollywood, or they run all the banking institutions, they run the media, blah, blah, blah. And so Tim Pool was addressing his concerns and his pain by saying, yes, they have mistreated you, in my opinion. And Tim Pool was talking about individuals in the media, not Jewish people in the media, like just certain individuals in the media. And so Kanye was like, well, who is they? See, we can't say who they are. And Tim Pool was like, well, I'm not using they the way you're using they. And Nick Fuentes was like, well, they are, though, aren't they? And then that's when he got up and left. So what I said earlier on my podcast was you can see how two people, in this case, I'm going to put Kanye and Nick Fuentes in the same group, and Tim Pool in another. Nick is a racist. Kanye is a racist. And they see the world through a racist lens. They judge people not by the content of their character, but the color of their skin. So, and Tim, I'm not praising Tim. This is just a statement of fact here. He's more inclined to judge someone after knowing them, what their values are, and what they do. So that's, you know, under Martin Luther King, that's what he wanted everybody to do, judge people on their character. So Kanye is living in this collectivist world, and under that umbrella is racism. And one of the most crudest forms of collectivism is racism. But here's the thing: why does Kanye look at the world that way and Tim Pool doesn't? Well, Kanye was brought up in urban America, and hey, that's what it is, man. We are all Democrats. We are all Baptists, or we are all Detroit Lions fans, even though Tim Pool, you know, grew up, he's mixed race. He grew up in urban Chicago with varying groups of friends. So I don't think his upbringing, and I haven't talked to Tim Pool, but I think it's easier for him to see the world as an individualist. Like, oh, this dude is black, but he's a skateboarder, so I'm down with him. Or this dude is white, but he likes, you know, classical music, so I ain't down with him. Well, Kanye is like, oh, this dude's from Detroit, so I know everything about him. I know what he thinks. I'm vibing with him. And it's just easier for him to see the world that way. And so when you get in a banking situation where the people you're dealing with happens to be from a certain group, right? It's just easy for him and people like him to just judge that person on those physical characteristics. It's just easier. And I don't know what it would take besides getting him in a room and sitting down and reading Ayn Rand and say, don't come out until you understand this. I don't know how you break that from people, especially at his age. You know, I think he's always going to think that the Jews are out to get him. I think he's always going to think that, oh, the blacks are going to support me. Half the blacks will support me, half of them won't. But when you ask him why, right? If you ask him why blacks support you, you can't really answer that. And when they were asking who are the Jews that's you know, mistreating you, can't answer that either. So unfortunately, I think most Americans see the world through a collective lens. And I'm gonna end this by saying that helps a particular political party.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Everything you said. I will only push back in this way. Fuentes and Kanye both have bad ideas that in their minds, in Kanye's mind, I believe it is justified for whatever reason, just based on the public evidence. And that is not me saying that he's correct. Fuentes has bad ideas that are just, he is a real piece of something that I'm not going to say. But because the collective internet decided to push these people in the dark corners now, instead of letting their bad ideas be exposed to sunlight and challenged, it just reinforced it. Whereas Kanye, I didn't know any of this crap until he went on Tucker Carlson. Then all of a sudden he's rolling with Nick Fuentes, who the same thing happened to. Fuentes, the same thing happened to. He worked for, I want to say the Blaze or one of these news outlets. I can't remember. He worked for a news outlet, and it was during Trump's run-up in the beginning of the Trump era, and he was writing news articles, and apparently the story goes, he said, well, it's America first, but what about Israel? And then it snowballed from there. He got canceled, reinforced his lunatic, just terrible human soul. I'm going to put it that way. And Kanye, it was kind of the same thing. So when I say I can understand where Kanye comes from, it's because if you say, oh, this group of people run everything, have destroyed my life, then it just so happens your trainer and your banker are these group of people, and you lose everything and have your kids threatened to be taken away. I can understand that. That's why this whole cancel culture bullcrap, it needs to stop. Like Kanye should be on Twitter being called out by whatever other peer that he has, and being told, hey, look, what you're saying is retarded and stupid, and these are the reasons why. And it should be an open debate. But when you confirm someone's deepest, darkest beliefs, whether they're correct or incorrect, it just reinforces them. It does not help anybody. And in my opinion, Kanye is, I don't know if he's mentally ill, or I don't know. That I don't know. But I will agree with what a lot of people are saying, is he's being used by a lot of freaking people. A lot of people he's being used by. I mean, how do you get Nick Fuentes, Milo Yiannopoulos on a private jet with Kanye West going to see Tim Pool? How does that happen?
Right. I'll let Mike do the Bible verse quoting, but there is one that I do. My grandmother says all the time: a fool and his money is soon
easily parted.
Right. There's another one that, ironically, I got from an atheist. The person who feels guilty about how they acquired their money will soon lose it. So I think a lot of African-American superstars, athletes, entertainers, they become rich and they start to feel guilty about the lifestyle they have relative to the people who look like them or who they grew up with. And so they start reaching out to help. And a lot of times there's really warm-hearted, nice-hearted people out there trying to help them, right? And who does Kanye reach out to? Well, he's recommended this firm. It's the best of the best. He's recommended this firm. It's the best of the best. Just happens the best of the best happens to be ran by a certain group of people, right? And so he's like, I can't go to my brother's accounting firm because it's not the best, right? It doesn't have that public perception of being the best. So I'm gonna have to go to this one, which the public says is the best. And the next thing you know, your trainer is from that group of the best, right? Your accountant, your lawyer, everybody is from this group, and you start to see like, man, everybody I'm dealing with is from that group. Well, I'm gonna roll this back, it's kind of philosophical here, but if he rolled it back to say, well, you know what, I can take a chance on people who don't have to be from that group, give somebody else a shot. I don't have to feel so guilty that I reach out. I'm making a little leap here, but I don't have to feel so guilty about my means that I can't invest in my own folk. Because what is Kanye saying? The record company is unfair to me. Dude, you got $11 billion.
But here's the thing. But see, here's the thing. But there'll still be a ceiling above that record company, primarily because of that group. And so, like, even just listening, like, I don't dive much. And so, I'm trying to veer off and just, you become more well-rounded in other subjects just beyond finance. But, everything boils down to that group. That group appears to be at the peak of everything. And even like when we're talking now, and I would say, like, out of concerns of being labeled as anti-Semitic, we're just saying that group.
Yeah.
So just like, even like, apart from that group, as I'm saying, like, they oversee Google, they oversee everything. That's just how things operate. And I want to share with you just this tweet that I shared with you guys as a result of this whole Timcast stuff is, why is it acceptable to talk about white privilege but not Jewish privilege? And I'm thinking, like, the mainstream media love bombarding us with, white black issues and white on white crime, black on black crime, but we never talk about, on the other side of that same spectrum, that group that happens to oversee and profit off of everything the white and black crimes do and all that other stuff. So, I like the fact that Kanye ruffled feathers. He ruffled feathers, got us talking about that group. Now, hopefully more light is shined on the impact that group has on society, on government, on every aspect of our lives, because technically speaking, we're all, slaves to that group in a sense. So, I love all people, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not, anti-Jewish at all. You know what I'm saying? I love them. So anyway.
Can you play that Chappelle joke on this channel, or that's probably not a good idea?
It's on YouTube.
Let me see. It's on YouTube. I don't know. I did see it though, but just like, in case Dave Chappelle. So somebody mentioned in the comment, does Dave Chappelle also need help? Like, because he went on Saturday Night Live exposing all that and was able to get laughs off of that. Like, so is Dave Chappelle as twisted as Kanye, or is just the way of their approach is different, and he's labeled as being, off his rockers?
Yeah, I think there's nobody like me and Mike grew up in Detroit, so there's always an uncle at the family reunion who will pull you to the side and say, that group been doing this and that to us for years, right? There's no concrete evidence to that, but that's the assumption. That's there's a belief out there. There's a narrative out there. The problem is how it's articulated. So you can't say Jewish privilege because they're deemed a minority, right? Or a protected class. So once they get in that class, you can't talk about that class. So you have to, if you think about it as strategy, like warfare or whatever, not saying we're warring against the Jews, but just if it was warfare, you can't think of it as just expression. So when you're talking in groups, that's a collectivist mindset. You're already in that trap of collectivism when you're saying whites, Jews, blacks, Native Americans, right? So to fight that, you need individualism. You got to the people in that group. So there are evil people in that group that hide behind the shield of anti-Semitism. They just happen to be in that group. They probably never go to the synagogue. They can care less about the holidays. They take advantage of them like I do, but they just happen to be in that group. It's almost like saying, Mike went to Easter Market, a place in Detroit, and he got robbed by some, Italians, right? And then when he went home, it was an Italian guy who just broke in his house running down the street. And then his girlfriend from high school left him for, I hope you ain't marry your wife. Marry your girlfriend from high school, but left him from an Italian dude. So then Mike goes on the internet and says, man, the Italians are just killing me. Like they got it out for me. So you can't say the Italians. You got to say it was three guys who just happen to be Italian. So that's what I'm saying about Kanye. The way he's articulating this is all messed up. It's almost like, dude, you're smart enough to know you can't get away with this, right? So when I think he was on Lex Friedman, whatever, and Freeman was like, name names. Who are these people? Cricket.
Right. Now, if he started naming names and going in depth with those names and how they're associated, he has limits. Like, he knows he loves, using that I'm not afraid of nobody guy. So I appreciate that. It's out of everybody in that space, it's in the billionaire status. He's the only person that mentions the name of Jesus Christ. So for that, I give him props. Right. But then again, he knows his limits because there are certain subjects he will not touch, even though he knows about them highly. And that has to do with, children and Hollywood. So he knows how not far to go.
Oh, when he was on Drink Champs, he was all about, I was hanging out with how do you say that?
Balenciaga. That's what I was exactly going to.
Talking to the guy, we hanging, rubbing shoulders together, and I'm like, I ain't know nothing about them. I know about them now. But
there's two things to this, right? I believe he was wearing a Balenciaga coat on the Tim Cass interview. Okay. Nobody has been fired from Balenciaga with the Satanism and the pedophile. Nobody has been held accountable to that. Kim Kardashian put out basically all thoughts and prayers and this is bad and whatever. Didn't stop working with them. Okay. That is a heinous, heinous, heinous company. And if you look back through its history, it has always been that way. A. And then B, Kanye. Oh, I lost my train of thought. I lost it.
But I would associate Balenciaga and all those people up there as a part of the group of society that are untouchable, quote unquote. Like they, and it's such. I do believe there's a such thing as saying that certain industries and people and players in those games are above the law, just because they are the ones that line the pockets of politicians, and they are the ones that have these, funding campaigns and like SBF and FTX situation, the crypto space. This guy's walking around free, scot clear. Why? Because the people who he associated with, Republican and Democrat, make sure that he's untouchable. So that's a crypto distraction. Elon's a technical social media distraction. Kanye is a social distraction of some
entertainment.
So, yeah, it's just like, man, these cats, man, it gives us something to talk about. But then again, it's exposing that group. So
and it's I don't know if this is on the subject or off, but I've heard something that's kind of related to a broader subject that I'm always concerned with, and that's the family. How like policies have destroyed the family. It's off subject, but it's about Kanye. He just got hit with child support for $200,000 a month. Think of that.
They got to go to Donda University though.
Kim Kardashian, and he has to pay $200,000 a month. He's bleeding money like a sieve because he keep opening his mouth. So he may be, have a couple of $100 million today, but 10 years from now, what if he's broke? He can go to jail for not paying child support.
Child support is
his kid's mom is multi. She might be a billionaire herself.
She is because of her cosmetic line or whatever.
Like, what is going on here, man? So, like, if Kanye, I understand Kanye's plight, and I understand why he wants to blame somebody, but you need to articulate yourself a lot better or shut up. I mean, because you got to name names at this point. You can't just be like, they did this to me.
That was
like Goliath, right? Nobody's gonna cry for Goliath. You're a billionaire. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That was the other point I forgot when you guys were talking about names. His trainer, again, can't remember the name, but he was like, we're gonna have a nice conversation. You're not gonna cuss or bring up any crazy stuff from your internet friends, or you're gonna go back into a catatonic state and you're never gonna have a good time with your kids again. It can go either way. Then you look into this dude, and he was the trainer and advisor. He experimented on Canadian soldiers under the permission of the Canadian government. He was in charge of what's her name, Amy Winehouse, when she died, and it's like, okay, so again, and he's a part of a group, so it is so hard to even talk about this because I do not like at all saying this group is bad. That's not the way you do things. I don't agree with that, but I try to be empathetic to Kanye, and it's like, if I'm Kanye and this group, this person is a part of this group, and they ripped my bank account apart when they didn't do it to Epstein, and they threatened to take my kids or medicate me or hospitalize me, and they're part of this group. I could see how he thinks that way. And that's kind of in my mind the line I'm trying to walk. And I don't know if Kanye is just being abused and taken advantage of, or he is purposely doing some more nefarious thing. So I'm kind of in the middle on this.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe, and somebody had to prove me wrong. I believe, and I'm pretty sure Mike does too. We're in time too. In that group is a group, right?
It's the group that goes up to the top to where there's and this is what my point was. Kanye even mentioned during the several interviews that it's a spiritual battle, like literally, like he's fighting forces. So we know at the peak of that, there's going to be some top, satanic blood. I mean, like that dark stuff is at the top of this. They all got a hierarchy of order, power. And of course, it goes down. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was an NXX cult. Remember that girl from Smallville? She got caught up in that Keith Richards. I think it is Keith Richards cult. I think it's XM. I think it's XM. It was a cult.
With the guy from the superhero TV show, or am I thinking
not the guy? Else? It was the girl from the superhero show. Not
this right
her. Not her. The other co-star.
Okay.
It's not her, but that's the sex. If you find what the cult was called, it's XM or NXS or something like that.
NXIVM.
Yeah. Nexium.
Yeah.
So I watched I'll try and be as brief as possible on this. I watched the documentary on that, and what I got out of it was fascinating. What I got out of that was it was a pyramid scheme. you know, people went there for, it's like a Robbins, what's his name? Anthony Robbins. Damn, I'm so bad with names. The guy with the big teeth, the motivational speaker.
Tony Robbins?
Tony Robbins, yeah. So it's kind of on that level.
He said big teeth. Okay.
I'm silly, man. I'm silly. It was on that level, like level 1, you come in, you do the seminar, pay them $30, and then you know you want the real stuff. You got to come back next week at level 2, $60, bring a friend. You get to level 3. So it's all these levels, right? But there was a level you get to where you literally had to bring in criminally incriminating evidence against yourself and a loved one to get to that next level. Okay. Think about that. So if I want to get to this next level where I get all the insights on everything and all this, you know, info, I got to incriminate myself and like my wife or my mom or my cousin, somebody that's close to you, right? And I just thought about that, man. I was like, is that not Hollywood? I mean, could they do that same thing for Hollywood? Because think about it. What if I haven't done any crimes?
Scientology.
I can't get to that level unless, like, so what do? Then you hear about these parties where, I don't know if this is true or not. This is total speculation. I heard it, you know.
Stuff happens.
Where, you know.
They have a camera right there.
They're getting blood samples from you to enter a party, right? So, you know, what do they need that for? Plant evidence somewhere. Like, you got all this stuff going on, and this is documented. Like, you can go look at that documentary. Dude's doing all type of time in jail right now, and so is she for sex trafficking and all this stuff. But I was like, man, that structure. I wonder, and then you think of Epstein and all this stuff, how he got all these people on this island, and to this day, you can correct me, I don't know of anybody who's on that list that said, you know what, hey, TMZ, I was there, ain't nothing happened. I don't know what's going on with the other folks, but when I was there, we just had mimosas, we watched the DVD, and then I went home. And nobody said nothing, like Jay-Z, nobody, like cricket. So
Epstein and Maxwell are the only people in history to be sentenced to prison for trafficking children to nobody. So yeah, I'm thinking like, because think about all the people who attack like Trump, who attacked Elon about free speech, all these woke people, a lot of them went on that island, and a lot of them, like, to me, they're replaceable. If you think about actors, I get on a rant here, but if you think about actors and musicians, it's easier to make this point with a musician. There's probably in our lifetimes 2 or 3 singers that are irreplaceable. Like, they have voices that are just, you can't duplicate it. They're amazing. Whitney Houston type, you know, actors. You would go with the guy, what's his name? Sorry.
Robin Williams.
Well, you say that, or I'm thinking of the guy,
Tom Cruise.
No Country for Old Men. No.
Samuel Jackson.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Like Daniel Day-Lewis. This dude is so good of an actor. When he did, I'm going to recommend this to everybody. It's a movie called My Left Foot. It's spoiler alert. It's been out 30 years. He played a guy with epilepsy. Was it epilepsy? Well, it's some type of disease. I thought he literally had I thought it was the real guy acting. I had no idea Daniel Day-Lewis was actually an actor. That's how good he is. So my point is, you got thousands upon thousands of actors, thousands upon thousands of singers. How do certain people get to the top? And just speculation here. Maybe they have to go through a process like these people in that sex cult went through, where you have to give up some dirt on yourself or somebody else to move up into that group.
Right.
If you don't, there's only so far you can go. And if you mess up, kick to the curb.
And so a lot of people, okay, this is, so this just tough conversation is just, it comes and it just flows. I like how it can take us any damn where. I like that. So, but there's, video footage of people, admitting that they had to sell their soul, like literally, like to get into that small echelon of society of everything being promised to you, you got to sell your soul. And so think of all the famous actors, Michael Jackson, Prince, they're all 50, 51, 52, 59. Like that's a very short lifespan, but I wonder, did they sell themselves for that short-term fame, for to enter that little small group of society? So, but then again, there's people above them calling those shots, and the lure of wanting fame and wealth and glory in this life is too appealing for most to pass up. So, but that I'm assuming that goes back to that group at some point.
Again, I think so. You don't get demonetized here. I think again that there's a group of people within that group that do evil stuff. Just like there's a group of people within the Black community that do evil stuff. I can name a few reverends that come to mind. I call them Big Perm and Big Worm. I don't know if you can figure that out, but one's named
Al and Jesse. So during this whole Kanye situation and all the stuff they've done to him, took away this and deplatformed this, I ain't see no signs of Al and Jesse, boy. They were MIA.
Yeah, the MIA. So think about, like, within that group, like if you want a new member of that group within that group, you're not going to Detroit down on First Baptist. Like you ain't gonna find a new member there. You ain't right. You go to probably a place where those people hang out, right? But it doesn't mean that, like, I got Jewish neighbors. I grew up with Jewish friends. We all know Jewish people. They're not all out to get Kanye West, but people who control the banking system for generations now, Hollywood, they have a very strong interest. I mean, that influence is there. That's undeniable. But you can't, like, Kanye West is coming out saying, like, all the Jews, like, what? Are you nuts? That just doesn't make sense. It's just dumb. It's low-level thinking, in my opinion. And people who spout that, I wonder if they're really, to be so smart, right? Kanye is a genius in his own right. It's in music and marketing, obviously. But are those beliefs sincere? I know he believes that there are people of that group who are screwing him over, but for him to just refuse to clarify that makes me doubt his sincerity in there. And it goes to Mike's point: is this just a distraction? Right? Is Nick Fuentes? Why is anybody even considering this guy?
Right.
Yeah, I hate Nick Fuentes. He is
I never
such
even
a
heard
piece
of the
of
guy
garbage.
or really knew about this guy until all of this. So, some people are just being brought into the light as a part of giving people something to talk about. So, yeah, but it all plays down to a distraction, man, unfortunately. So here's a question, like, so we're about 48 minutes or so. And so, Tom, unfortunately, we don't get to your topic. So I encourage people, because you did talk about it, so they can go to your Rumble channel and get more in-depth talk about it, just because for the sake of time. But let's end on some positive notes. So we got the Elon situation, we got the group, we got all this other stuff out here. How can we take and process this, and how can we turn this around for our own good, our own benefit? Anything come to mind for you fellas?
Okay, so me personally I'll just skirt my topic a little bit. Is you got to understand that at every second of every day, everything you're watching is vying for your attention. It's especially in the mainstream, it's manipulating you. Then you go to the independent sources, they're manipulating you. We're not manipulating you, though. We are very honest people. Don't ever think that about any one of us. But everybody at every second is vying for your time and your attention. And just understand that. That's all you need to know. Don't believe anything you hear unless it's from us. Don't believe anything you ever hear on the TV, on the internet. Just take care of yourself. Take care of your family. This is Christmas. Embrace that. Embrace that, especially if you're in America, which I'm assuming most of us that are watching this are. Embrace that at least we still live in a free country for the time being. Understand that things are going to get bad, but ask yourself, what is your task and what is your purpose? And if your task and your purpose is to save this country and to raise a family, then the country will be saved. And that's it. You just got to have hope and you have to have determination.
Hey, well said, my man. Jay, how about you, man?
I'll definitely piggyback on what Tom said. If it's coming from mainstream TV, there's an agenda there, and it's for your attention. So, human beings, Pinker, I think his name is, wrote a book about this. Humans have evolved to pay more attention to negative stuff than positive stuff. So they're going to try and get clickbait, clicks for disingenuous stuff, stuff that's taken out of context just so you can read the first paragraph. That fear benefits both parties, but definitely one in particular. I think in a free society, what a lot of people have missed a boat on, thanks to our education system, is, home of the free. I said this last time, I always say it. We're the home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave, however it goes. But no one talks about responsibility. So now we're in the greatest era ever to be able to find out almost any information you want. It's so hard for them to hold this narrative together that they painted for us for the majority of our lives. And you are seeing that narrative being shattered just by three guys right here, right? They are panicking. They are doing everything they can to glue this thing together. And I think Breitbart said, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but culture is downstream from politics is downstream from culture. But I say the narrative is downstream from culture, is downstream from the narrative. That's confusing.
Culture is downstream from the narrative.
So you get the narrative first, that creates the culture, and ultimately you get your political. That's how the politics go. So if you create a narrative that, I always say this all the time, for Black people in urban settings, every white person you don't know is a racist, right? That's the narrative you set, and that's all your videos. You're a victim. Remember all those movies that came out in the early 2000s about the first Black person to ever do anything? Movies like it was, first Black people to swim, first Black people to debate, first Black people to jaywalk, first Black, just all this victimization stuff. And that's the narrative that they were painting. That creates a culture of fear, a culture of victimization, and ultimately that culture leads to votes for a certain Democratic Party. So with that said, take the responsibility. Don't take my word for anything. Research it yourself. So if you go to my channel, I try and always give you citations. You can go look at this yourself. I know we're all busy, but at least I give you the citations, where to go find that information. So do yourself a service. Don't freak out, but do your own research too.
Well, gentlemen, man, good stuff as always. I want to thank you for joining us for here. So make sure you guys can go connect with these guys. We got Tom in the middle, the coming conflict over on Rumble. Go check him out. He does a good job of highlighting a lot of issues. So encourage you to plug in with him. And then, of course, we have Mr. Andre as well, the author of the group. You know what I'm saying? My man writes books as well as does his thing over on YouTube as well at The Broke Capitalist. So appreciate you guys, man, for joining me. It's good to, connect with like-minded guys, just have some fun and laugh a little bit. And so we did get some laughs in there out of all this craziness. So, but appreciate you guys, man. And other than that, Wednesdays, the Hangout, we're going to do as much as we can. Thank you, gentlemen. Be blessed. Be safe. Everybody who enjoyed this, hit that thumbs up and go check out those gentlemen. So be blessed, y'all. Peace.
Peace, guys.